In this video, I'm going to do a full breakdown case study of one particular client who was able to lower his A1C, improve his high blood pressure, improve his high cholesterol naturally, and in doing so, may have saved his eyesight. So I'm going to dive into the document here that I prepared and go into the challenges, the tactics, the strategies, and everything that we did with this specific individual. So let's start right off the bat. Meet Leo, 28-year-old male, 5'6", 185 pounds. Activity level was sedentary as an IT professional, someone that sat at a desk all day and really didn't do a whole lot outside of getting up for meals. And I think a lot of people can really relate with that, whether it's sitting in a car in traffic and sitting at a desk or not getting up and exercising at the end of the day because you're so tired. And for him, his initial target weight was 175 pounds. He actually ended up dropping over 25. And so let's go down the line of some of the challenges here. And so first one, I'm going to try and manage my face getting out of the way here. First one, entering the program in diabetic range, 7.4% A1C. In addition to that, we had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and those three are oftentimes going to be connected. When you have a lot of insulin resistance, when you have a lot of stress on a system, it's going to really affect a lot of things down chain as we get into different organs, the liver, the kidney, pancreas, and everything that is involved going on internally beyond just what the scale is saying. Another contributing factor, averaging less than 4,000 steps a day. Meals were irregular, low protein within those meals, which is impacting in the body's ability to maintain muscle. And then we've also got high stress levels, poor sleep routine, which is keeping cortisol elevated, also contributing to insulin resistance. And the big one here that was really powerful for this individual and wanting to make a change was being concerned about long-term vision health and how the high blood sugar was impacting the blood vessels around his eye and impacting his visibility. And so one of the other things that was not necessarily a challenge on paper, but it was more mentality wise. A lot of people will just look at BMI and think, oh, I'm healthy. I don't necessarily have anything to worry about. And for him at 5'6", 185, I don't have the exact BMI there, but that's not someone that jumps off the page and is morbidly obese. Oh, we've got to make changes. And so this individual is like, yeah, I could lose a little bit of weight, but I don't think weight loss is my problem. My problem is A1C, which brings me to kind of the deeper point here in that the fat accumulation, the excess body fat, regardless of how much this person weighed, it was what was contributing and causing the inflammation, the liver overload, the blood volume increase just by having more than what was necessary on his frame, increasing the overall blood vessels and how much his body and heart had to work, which was putting a lot of strain on his arteries and heart, as I said. And there's actually a really interesting study out of University of Florida, 2016, found that 1/3 of healthy weight adults over the age of 45 met the criteria for prediabetes. And now this is kind of the tricky thing here is not a lot of people even get this stuff tested. So I started right off the bat with just some initial numbers, and I'll get into more numbers in a second. But if you're watching this and you don't know where your blood markers are at and you're not in a healthy weight, then I would get that checked, because ignorance is not bliss. It's like a credit or debit card. You can't just continue to swipe and never look at the balance. You got to make sure that you're looking at those things. What gets measured gets managed. So props to this guy for being aware of these numbers and making sure that he was staying on top of this. Now, there's a few things that I want to go layer deeper with, because the excess fat is the linchpin for these problems. A lot of people get wrapped up in, oh, is this food healthy, right? I eat healthy. I don't know why I'm running into these issues. You can eat healthy food, but be in a calorie surplus. You can eat unhealthy food and be in calorie maintenance. And this isn't to say go and eat Twinkies all day, but when you aren't in a healthy weight, eating unhealthy food, as people would deem it, actually makes it harder on your body. And so the most unhealthy thing you can do is be over 20, 25, 30% body fat, because that makes it harder on your body to handle food that isn't healthy. It's the dosage that does the damage. And so when you look at excess fat and how it impacts uh, insulin resistance, well, fat cells increase inflammatory chemicals into the bloodstream. That brings insulin resistance higher. The A1C goes higher. The pancreas then says, oh, well, we've got more blood sugar in the body. Let's you release more insulin, but then eventually it starts to get tired and starts to stop producing that. And that's obviously what leads to diabetes. And so the body eventually gets to a point to where it can't handle these blood sugar spikes. And when you're in that higher body fat percentage and you've got more visceral fat releasing those chemicals, it's contributing to the problem. Then on the cholesterol side of things, the liver turns excess calories into triglycerides. From there, low density lipoproteins increase, visceral fat, which gets stored. Typically, you're going to start to see a lot of visceral fat as people get north of 15, 20% body fat. And so, visceral fat releases fatty free acids, which leads to fatty liver. The liver produces unhealthy cholesterol. And now it's this cycle on the cholesterol side of things. Then you've got increase in blood vessels and blood volume. That increases blood pressure. Visceral fat releases hormones, increasing sodium retention. There's actually a really interesting thing in this specific case study of the individual having too much water, which when you have increased sodium retention and increased water, that was causing a lot of problems. And then that insulin resistance causes the kidneys to also retain salt, more inflammation, more pressure on the system. So hopefully that kind of hammers home the point that being excessively overweight or having too much body fat on your frame is the bigger problem. I would always look at, if I was someone trying to improve my health, BMI, don't throw it out the door because doctors are trying to just basically see height, weight. Are you in a healthy range? That is like the highest level of highest level in terms of like a 50,000-foot view on how healthy is this individual. The best thing you can do is get your body fat tested. There's going to be different scales that give you rough estimates. The gold standard is going to be a DEXA scan or some sort of in-body scan to actually see how much body fat do you have, and specifically how much visceral fat do you have. Subcutaneous fat, still want to keep that down. Not as bad as visceral fat. That's what sits on the organs and basically just kind of releases that inflammation right into those different parts of the body. So let's continue going on with this specific individual. Now, I want to get into a little bit of the goal side of things. A lot of people talk about, "Oh, I don't have motivation." And what motivation a lot of times is it's a lack of clarity. And I'll give you an example here. I was talking with an individual who had a video that they were watching, and for a while they weren't motivated to work out. But in this video, this person was talking about the reason that what they wanted to go to the gym. And he said, it's a little bit dark, but I decided that I wanted to work out because there was actually a shooter and I couldn't run up the stairs to get away from this individual. And that was a moment for that person to say, wow, I need to get my health in check. And the person I was talking to said they saw this on Instagram. They're like, man, when I saw that, it made me realize, shoot, if I had to go and immediately sprint or immediately go and save my children, I might not have the physicality to do that. And so that is what I call dark side. That is a fear-based motivation. And for a lot of people, that's where their motivation comes from. They're afraid of what the doctor says. They're afraid of what someone might say, and how they're looking. But that's one layer of motivation. The other layer is a really clear vision on where you want to get to, which is why I like to introduce the MVP. So your mission for this specific individual, his goal, very clear. We want clear, measurable metrics here. Lower A1C, okay? Motivating. Increase energy. It's a little bit vague. I would try and say, okay, what do you want energy for? If it's energy to play with your kids for more than 15 minutes or to run around with some friends playing ultimate frisbee, okay, now that's a specific event. That's going to be more motivating. Protecting vision. When we get to the five senses of an individual and whether or not you might lose that, that is one very specific, very scary. And that was a very clear goal. So, all right, we already have the mission. That is the goal. That's what we want to do. But for a lot of people, it's getting a layer deeper. So, as we got a layer deeper with this individual, what's the feeling that this person wanted? And this particular person was very passionate about doing so naturally without medication so he can feel confident about his longevity. The idea of being on medication at 28 for something that was preventable and something that he could fix gave him a lot of unease. He wasn't able to be present. He was really worried, had a lot of anxiety. And so for him, the feeling that he wanted was peace of mind and confidence about his longevity. And then getting a layer deeper, this gets into the identity of the individual. And if you ever want to make a long-term change your identity. Your identity is your beliefs, your values, and really the things that you say about yourself. And so for this individual, he was really big on providing for his family and maintaining his independence and being able to continue to contribute. So for you watching this, you got to really get layers deep to figure out, who am I? And if you're someone that says, oh, I'm just a lazy POS, or I'm just a big boned individual, I'm always going to be overweight. That's your identity. That's what you believe about yourself. It's going to be really hard, I would argue near impossible, to outpace your identity, because eventually you'll sabotage whatever progress you're making, to boil back to how you see yourself. This is getting into a little bit of psychology here, but this is really important to understand for this individual and for yourself. Yeah, you want to have your goal. Okay, your goal is to lose weight. Okay, well, why? You want to feel confident. Okay, well, what does feeling confident mean for you? Oh, that means that you can show up as an example for your kids, making it that you're, a better example and father figure. Okay, that's an identity level. That's powerful. That's motivating. Everyone wants to lose weight. Everyone wants to feel confident. But when you understand why, that's going to be something that you actually stick with long term. So let's get back into here. So MVP is what I call it: mission, vision, purpose. Your mission, that is your numerical goal. Vision is your emotional goal. And then purpose is the why behind the why. So let's get a little bit deeper into these bottlenecks. So the things that were causing a lot of these problems, again, it wasn't just nutrition, right? When we talk about excess body fat, that was something that contributed to everything. But some of the things that also compounded these problems is long hours sitting at a desk. IT support, it's not an active construction job. It's not someone that's teaching swim lessons. This person's sitting at a desk all day. It's what a lot of people do, just with how society is designed for careers and professionals. And so sitting at a desk all day means not a lot of steps. Skipped or delayed meals, which led to big late night dinners. This is a real common thing for people, whether they are dieting and trying to restrict, and then they have big dinners, or people get really busy. They don't think about eating. They don't think about the structure of their day. And then all of a sudden it gets to the end of the day, they get some fast food, or they order DoorDash, another big 2,300 calorie bomb, 3 to 4,000 steps a day. That's a mix of job, type and just being sedentary and job. But it's also, what do you do when you wake up? What do you do when you get done with work? Are you going for a walk after you eat? Things like that are definitely controllable. Going to sleep at 12 to 2 a.m., that's going to disrupt someone's circadian rhythm, keep cortisol elevated, which is just going to make it harder for the body to have natural levels of testosterone, and maintaining insulin sensitivity. High screen time and stress. If you're someone that just sits there and doom scrolls, and you've got a stressful job, all you're going to find for your eyes and your brain is more light keeping you up at night, and more stress, because what bleeds leads when you get to the news. So you're basically just reading negativity. You've got stress going on, creating this constant cycle of stress, cortisol, elevated blood sugar. And so the effects, as I mentioned, insulin resistance, we saw that A1C was higher, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, the energy swings throughout the day due to blood sugar swings, disrupted circadian rhythm. A lot of people, again, run into this issue where they have this like huge up and down of energy, big introduction of food, big carb gut bomb, and crash later. They're wired in the middle of the night, they crash in the middle of the day. Your energy should feel like this, right? And it should maybe slowly taper off if you've got a good intake of fiber and protein, which is helping your body slowly digest food, but you also want a natural circadian rhythm. For this individual, super high, super low. And so when you have this, it's really hard to find a consistent eating schedule, really hard to find a consistent workout schedule, because you're always exhausted and you're always just trying to get through the next day, oftentimes with a lot of caffeine. And that was kind of the last little part here with this individual. Stress eating and huge meals. Using food as a coping mechanism is something that is very common. And it's what leads to people over consuming calories, because they're not in tune with actually being hungry. They're just using it to sedate the stress that they're feeling. Now, the approach that I take when working with clients, and the approach my team and I take, is a blend of training, an adaptable nutrition and stress management system, and then gamification. So there's specific strategies for this individual, and anyone watching that is, akin to this person. Focus on strength training. That's going to improve insulin sensitivity with this specific individual. All he had is body weight. He could really only do 30 minutes. So we just started off with something simple. Big takeaway here: you don't need to follow what's on social media and do this crazy intense extreme. Start small with the little things, be consistent with the little things, and ramp up. So when you have something that you can do, it fits your time schedule and it fits what works with your body, you're also going to be more motivated, because you're not building up this huge wall of inertia that you need to overcome. You're able to say, okay, cool, like I can execute that. I can do a 15, 20-minute body weight workout. daily steps that were attainable. A lot of times you'll see on social media, go get 10,000 steps. And that's a good goal. But if you're someone that's only getting 4,000 steps, that's two and a half what you're getting. And that might feel like a ton. And so you got to find a way to slowly ramp up and progress that, find something that's attainable, hit that goal. You're going to start to believe that it's possible. And all of this is to, again, improve insulin sensitivity to help the body regulate intake blood sugar that is staying elevated. Then on the nutrition and stress management side of things, set meal timing strategies to help give a more regular release of energy, but also prevent those big blood sugar spikes. When we can get into a consistent eating schedule, eating at a certain time for breakfast, eating at a certain time for lunch, eating at a certain time for dinner, the body starts to get into a rhythm with that. Setting targets for protein, fiber, sodium, hydration goals. Protein is going to help maintain muscle. Super important when losing fat and trying to maintain a good body fat percentage and insulin sensitivity. Fiber, it's going to help you feel full. It's going to help with digestion. It's going to help slowly release that blood sugar. Sodium, being aware of that, is going to be really important for someone with hypertension. And the hydration goals for this individual was actually drinking less water. This person was pounding water, and that was contributing to what I talked about earlier, where the body was already holding on to a lot of salt. So when you increase all of that extra water and on that extra salt being added on, also high sodium diet, makes sense that the blood pressure was being an issue. So setting numerical goals for that is going to help on the nutrition side of things. Then a big one that a lot of people don't account for: biofeedback, digestion, sleep, libido, skin, mental health, soreness. There's a lot of different ways that the body communicates how it's handling the stress it's under. And a lot of the stress we can't control. Holidays, travel, grandma's in the hospital, maybe your kid is sick. Those are things that are out of your control. So you need to make sure that you're adapting your nutrition, meal timing, you're adapting your training intensity to match the stressors that you're under. Otherwise, you're going to overfill. It's like a coffee mug. I'll use this here. Let's say I fill this up. This was not planned. Do not pour your LaCroix into a half drink coffee mug. If this is the stress of your training and nutrition, and then you go and pour stress outside of your control inside of that, your cup's going to overflow. You're going to burn out. And then what this internalizes is, it's not the cards for me. I can't do this. It's too hard. It's too intense. You've got to plan for the stressors that you can't control. And if you can't control a lot of those, you need to pull down the intensity into something more sustainable. And you're going to be successful long-term doing that. Now, the last one here, I'm a big fan of gamification. Grew up playing games. I've got ADHD. My things that I like to focus on, in addition to obviously one-on-one coaching and having the ability to have someone lay out a roadmap built for you, is gamification provides a lot of camaraderie. So in the community, there's a lot of competition elements of troopers that are assigned to squads. The squads compete with each other. Data-driven dashboards to see progress. In any video game you play, you're going to have metrics. You're going to have little goals that you're chasing, little carrots that you're chasing, and then there's going to be your rewards in game, but also in what we do with our coaching to make sure that we have this positive reinforcement cycle. Working out isn't always fun. Eating healthy isn't always fun. But if you're doing it for a purpose, and in doing so, you get to unlock a cool little badge. It's little things like that for people that help them in their head say, okay, cool, I want to make sure I finish this so I can unlock the captain ranking. And that's something that a lot of people really, really identify with. Then there's the identity shifting mechanism. And this is what I talked about earlier. There's old Leo and there's new Leo. You watching this, there's, the old version of you, the new version of you. And you've got to let that old version of you die if you're going to take on what the future best version of you wants to have. And so an identity shifting avatar, when we give people a trooper number and a call sign, it's a way of having them say, what would Inferno do? What would Batman do? What would Jesus do? What would Captain Rex do? Whatever your like hero or deity or version of yourself that you want to be, simply laying in bed at 5 a.m. when the alarm goes off and you say, what would that person do? It's probably not hit snooze for the 5th time in a row, for the 5th day in a row, for the 5th month in a row. You've got to get to a point to where you can ask yourself, what would this person who has the character traits that I want to embody do? And you start to cast votes for that individual. Now, let's get into some of the tactics here. Movement increasing from 3,500 steps today to 8,000 to 9,000. So as I mentioned, we're not saying, hey, day one, go get 10,000, but just bumping that up was a 2x increase. Absolutely massive. Daily movement built around a sustainable routine. Recommendations that I would have for walks: wake up, go for a walk, 10, 15 minutes. Then around your lunch break, go for a walk after your lunch. After dinner, go for a walk. That right there is going to get you 15 minutes. It's going to help with digestion. It's going to help wind down, get you into a parasympathetic state, especially after dinner. And then if you have a walking pad, that's another game changer that you can have, especially for those desk-bound jockeys. I mean, myself, I got mine over by my desk, and I'll get in 15, 16,000 steps some days and not go outside once, which in the Pacific Northwest, when it's rainy and windy up in the mountains where we're at, I'm down for that. I can get my steps in, stay inside. Fat loss sounds obvious, but losing fat was one of the best things that this individual could have done, because that started to really get the body into a state to where it could start to handle the excess that it did have and find a much more balanced calorie intake with nutrient dense foods was also a really important one here. And then consistency. There's no secret. I think the hard work is the shortcut, but being consistent and being able to track and see, okay, I'm hitting 80 to 90% of scheduled training sessions. Nutrition consistency. I'm going from, in this specific case of the individual, increasing week after week, 50 to 80% consistency on tracking and hitting protein targets and calorie targets. A lot of people just go off feeling. They say, I feel like I'm eating healthy. Well, if you're someone with high triglycerides or high cholesterol or pre-diabetes, and you say, like, I feel like it's better, that is very different than reading a report and having it say these are no longer in unhealthy ranges. And that's where, again, a lot of people, they say, I feel like I'm eating healthier. I think I'm working on my better portions. Unless you're guessing. And here's the big thing with intuitive eating. Your intuition is your subconscious pattern recognition system. And if you're not getting the results you want and haven't been for years, you need to attune that pattern recognition system. So getting it attuned to objective reality and data is going to enable you to then go back to intuitive eating, because your intuition is attuned to reality. Really big, important key there. Make sure you're training your intuition on actual accurate data and not guessing and feeling and winging it, especially if guessing it and feeling it and winging it is leading to results that you do not want. Now, let's get into a big one here. This is where we talk about that identity shift. And I want to make this really tactical for individuals, because a lot of people hear identity and it's really kind of just vague. The root word of identity is idem, IDEM, and in Latin that means the same. So it means you're doing the same thing over and over and over. And so when you start to groove in the same habits over and over and over, picture it like a screw burrowing into your identity. It's every day. I work out, I go for a walk, I have my protein shake. It's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Eventually it hits the core. Boom. Now we start to change the person from the inside out. The reason why all of these diets, all of these workout methods exist. YouTube, there's 10 million videos uploaded a day. Chat GPT, AI, you have all the information at your fingertips. You don't need a new method. That's like changing different skins on a video game character. You need a different operating system. When you change the code of the video game, then the character will play different. But if you just slap a new skin on it, give it a new diet, yeah, it might change a little bit of it cosmetically, but eventually you'll boil back to your root level identity. I cannot stress this enough. This is why lottery winners, professional athletes, people get in amazing relationships and they sabotage it and find themselves back at square one a year later. It's because they never shift their values, their beliefs. A lot of that comes from education. Education's there. YouTube, which you're watching this video, Chat GPT, you can find all that information. You got to change your beliefs around nutrition, around training, around what is possible. A lot of times that means getting away from people that have limiting beliefs. That is not in the scope of this video. So old Leo focused just on one number. He was very hyper-focused. I need to get my A1C. How he changed his character traits. Okay, well, new Leo is going to take a step back, have some awareness, look at and see the whole field and look at the full picture. And looking at the full picture, you can see how it all works together. And so new Leo, and when he joined, he became CT70 or CT3065. He got put in Bravo Squad, which is his squad for community and camaraderie as well inside the community. And then he earned his call sign Vector. And so he saw movement now and meals and metabolism and mindset as things that all work together. It's a holistic thing that works together synergistically. And when you have that perspective, now you can start to look at how they all impact that A1C number. Waited for time or motivation to start. This is a really big one. I'm not motivated. People procrastinate. One of my favorite character traits that someone can have is bias for action. It's something that I picked up. Is actually a value trait at Amazon. They have leadership traits or qualities, and bias for action is one that I always just identified with. I love the idea of Han Solo walking into a ship, shooting first, asking questions later. And that's honestly where 95% of people should be on the spectrum of health and fitness, because you cannot collect data without taking action. You can't steer a car that isn't running. And so many people will sit there, oh, I'm doing research. I'm trying to find the perfect thing. I'm trying to find the perfect thing. Oh, is it this? Is it? Go just take a bunch of action. And in that volume, you're going to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. And that is going to train yourself so much faster than just consuming information. If I'm trying to learn how to, talk to someone on a date, I'm going to go on 20 dates, not read a bunch of books on theory about how to dates. Now, what's cool about this is when you go and apply and have that bias for action and go and do 100 workouts, then when you go and watch YouTube videos, or when you go and read books, or when you go and ask people for perspectives, you actually have something to compare it to. But if you're just sitting there on the sidelines asking all this information, you're going to feel overwhelmed. You need to just go and take action. I don't care what you do. I make my living partially making Star Wars themed workouts and helmets. Oh, just like this one. Like, people can do all sorts of Zumbas and golf and you name it. Like, just do something. But if you're not doing something consistently, you're not going to have the ability to create consistent data, consistent patterns to actually make data-driven decisions, which again, you're just going off a feeling. And so that's why I love what Leo did here, is just being able to say, all right, I'm just going to go and not procrastinate, not wait for the perfect time, just take action. And that began, with just the first step, right? And tracking those actions and letting data as opposed to feelings guide those decisions. That's how new Leo thought. So that's the second one. Third one, a lot of people view nutrition and exercise as chores. Or that's how he viewed it. And so he's like, oh, it's kind of boring. And this is where employing patience was absolutely massive for him. Being able to stick to the process and have it be a process that's sustainable, as opposed to just getting crushed and feeling burnt out. And this is another one where if you're playing a video game and you want to develop the skill, let's say of strength, well, when you get put in situations where you need to be strong, don't complain that you have to go and resist something. You asked for more strength. You develop strength by being put in situations where that strength is under stress. So if your goal is to become more patient and you get put in a situation to where you have to practice patience, that's a good thing. That's an opportunity to strengthen that patience muscle. And that's how you're going to actually get to a point to where you become more patient. So for Leo here, patient to stick with the process, prevent burnout, realizing that health is built through daily structure, not bursts of short effort. When you get to the point to where you're like, okay, this is just how I operate every single day, it's not going to feel like a chore, right? Like, I love making YouTube videos. For other people, it's a chore, but I've done this for so long now. At this point, probably 1,000, 1,500 videos. It's just what I do, and it doesn't feel like a chore. I'm going to make videos, and I'm going to post them. I'll get feedback, and I'll make more videos, and I'll post them. But that patience muscle and the muscle of talking to the camera like this was only built through repetition. And then last one here, he identified, he's like, man, I'm diabetic, I'm hypertensive, I got high blood pressure. So the identity shift enabled him to change his beliefs, his values, so he could change his actions. He adopted the mindset of, I'm not trying to get healthy, I'm living as a healthy person. And that right there is something that he said in his success story. That is the shift that I would want for everyone. Not to have the perfect diet, the perfect workout routine be perfect. Go from I'm trying to I am. A good example of this is I'm trying to quit smoking to I don't smoke. Right? When you look at the two differences of those two statements, it speaks to who you are and what you believe about yourself. So kudos for that swap on Leo. Getting into some of the numbers here. So consistency replaced motivation. Stress dropped as routines take over. Once something becomes your routine and it just sits in your subconscious, this is how you do things. There's no longer stress. It's just a new operating system that's running for you. Each habit reinforced the new identity to become confident, capable, and in control. A1C went from 7.4 to 5.6. 1.8 drop went from diabetic to normal range in 16 weeks. Weight went from 185 to 160. Steps doubled, 100% increase. Meal consistency became more structured, anchored in a specific routine with more protein. Training 3 days a week, body weight. But when you add that in with walks, a lot can happen very quickly. Self-reported energy went from 5 out of 10 to 9 out of 10. And so when he stopped chasing perfection and focused on the process, everything clicked. Other results outside of that: lifestyle, blood sugar reduced, pressure on the blood vessels. His eye started to heal. He was no longer having the same issues that he was. His sleep improved. His stress lowered, which lowered his cortisol, which improved his insulin resistance even more. Higher levels of energy, higher levels of confidence, higher levels of self accountability. He was starting to build this into his lifestyle, and those foundational habits he built with coaching was something that was able to actually do the work of what a lot of medication does. I'm going to, shameless plug here. If you need to use a GLP-1 or other medication to get your health in control, 100%. But building the habits and building the identity in conjunction with that is going to be something that actually lasts much longer. If you go and look at the fine print on those commercials from Monjuro or whatever, it says, this works great when combined with diet and regular exercise. And so there's not a magic pill. The magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. That's one of my favorite quotes. I'm going to use that right here. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And you're also just going to feel more confident knowing that you've done the work and that you have the skills to do this on your own and not be reliant on the government or the insurance being able to say you have this medication covered or you don't. It gives you a level of self-autonomy and ownership that is one of the most freeing things that you can have in life. And so for Leo, 4 months, undid years of just trying harder. And he didn't just go on a program, go on a diet. He built a system that actually worked with his life and health. Turned that wake-up call in something that was threatening his vision and career into something that gave him control and confidence through structure. And it wasn't guesswork, just needed a clear path and a vision. And so if you're watching this, thank you for watching. Some of the things that you can take away, just kind of general, this is not, I watch those videos like, this is not financial advice. This is not health advice. But this is patterns that you will see in people that are successful in improving insulin sensitivity. Reduce inflammation, alcohol, fast food, especially, just kind of like junk, fried food, added sugars. For some people, if you're allergic to dairy or gluten, those things are all going to cause inflammation in your gut. It's going to make it harder on your body to process, digest food. It's going to increase a lot more blood in the body. And so reducing inflammation is going to be huge. Resistance train 3 to 4 times a week. Just start there. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. Focus on compound movements, squats, hinges, push, pulls. That's going to get the most bang for your buck for exercises. Reduce stress. I know that's easier said than done, but reducing high intensity cardio or excessive cardio, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 runs a day or a week rather, just switch it over to walking, something low intensity, low stress. Reduce caffeine, prioritize sleep, charge your phone on your nightstand away from the side of your bed so you're not doom scrolling in the middle of the night. And then with your diet, build meals around protein, high fiber, healthy fats. Think avocado, chia seeds in your protein shake, a little bit of seafood, some salmon's going to be solid there to help with digestion, preventing glucose spikes. And then with your carbs, focus those pre and post workout. That's when your body's going to be able to utilize it the most. And that's when your insulin sensitivity is going to be highest. Supplements: berberine, fish oil, magnesium, glycinate, apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar can help with blood sugar spikes after meals. So that's when you would do it. And then potentially intermittent fasting. And if you're going to do breakfast, just focus on protein and fat. So that's everything. If you want to check out Leo's case study, it is in the testimonials section on my YouTube channel. And I want to see what he says here. They found out that I was suffering a lot of eye damage toward my left eye. That was a wake-up call. I had a vague idea of what to do, but some guidance wouldn't hurt. 4 months later, I'm 20 pounds down and a solid game plan for life. So That's what he said there. And if you're interested in support, Fit Nerd Academy. It's where one-on-one coaching meets gamification. It's community with guys just like you, changing their body and getting a trooper helmet to signify their transformation. I can't believe I say that every single time. We've done at this point like 80 personalized helmets, and it's so cool to see how many different styles people have gotten. And there's other videos if you want more examples of people that have had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, A1C in pre-diabetic or diabetic ranges. These are just some examples of guys that we've supported. And so if you want to learn more or apply, that link's going to be down below in the description. Questions, drop them down below. Thank you for watching. I truly hope this has been valuable for you. And I truly believe that whatever it is you are working towards, you can achieve and you can accomplish. Just got to stay consistent. You got to believe that it's possible. All right. Catch you later, troopers.